Hi, this is Michael Adams for CEORoaster, and you might remember that a while ago I did a first introduction, I think it's probably like a year ago, of HealthSpace data systems trading on the Canadian markets as HS and also trading on the German markets, and the symbol is 38H. The German WKN number is A2ABE4. And yeah, HealthSpace had some bumpy ride. Yeah, it had some, like the stock price went a little bit down, had a huge bump just recently when they announced their own blockchain initiative. And what I'm trying to figure out is, and this is why I invited Silas Garrison, he's the CTO of HealthSpace, to really bring us up to speed on the blockchain initiative. And I'm trying to kind of separate like the wannabe blockchain companies from the real blockchain companies. And my feeling is that HealthSpace has a real live application for blockchain, but that's what Silas is hopefully going to tell us. So first of all, Silas, thanks for taking the time out of your busy day. And to start off, maybe give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Michael, thank you for having me. I appreciate you taking the time to also interview us and let us talk about this. So I've been with HealthSpace for about all of 2 years now, and I've been running the technology, managing all the product development and all our innovations. So being with HealthSpace for about 2 years, I came aboard as part of an acquisition of my former company. It was a startup. Then we were the first to do iPad and Android technology in the environmental health space. So mobile inspection software, mainly meant for tablet devices. So HealthSpace acquired my company, and I became the chief technology officer as part of that transaction. And now that I've been with the company for 2 years, what we did is we took the first 12 plus months and really just revamped everything. So prior to my joining, HealthSpace was selling a more thick client desktop-based software to all of its clients. And now we're fully cloud-based and fully mobile. So we have two main chains of solution that we offer, and that's what we've really been innovating over the past 2 years. And we have already sold several contracts in the past few months, and we expect a lot more to come out of our innovation. So with that, Michael, if you don't mind, I would just jump right into this presentation.
That would be great. And you just mentioned, yeah, and I was following the news releases over the last little while. It seems that your revenue model, yeah, where you have like recurring revenues from your satisfied clients, right? I think so far none of your clients really canceled the contract, so they're all satisfied with the services, and yeah, you're gaining more clients. Is that right? Like in the operational business?
Yeah, that is correct. So our core competency, our core business is driven out of government sales, and all of these usually last a life of either 3 to 5 years. And all of the contracts that we have under books have never canceled. So meaning every client that we've had, once their contract is up for renewal or expiration, they renew it for another 3 to 5 years. We've never lost a client. Full retention.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, just give us a brief overview for those guys that don't know the company yet. Of course, all the information is available on healthspace.com. But now that we have you here, Silas, just give us kind of the elevator pitch on the business model.
Sure. So we sell primarily to government environmental health departments, and these are the folks that inspect a long list of different kinds of establishments, anything from restaurants, pools, service industry, hotels, you name it. Our software is utilized by the government to go in and collect data and inspect and regulate these kind of businesses. So our software is used in a very vast and varied nature across a lot of different business verticals. And it gives us a lot of rich insights, both on the data front and on the exposure to different industries. And that's one of the things that has kind of led us into what we're doing next, when I'll touch on in a moment in our blockchain solutions. It has led us to have a lot of insight that a lot of other company software providers don't get, because clients, being government, have introduced us into private industry in a way that we probably never would have otherwise. So you see here, I'm just going to click through a couple of slides. We have, what we do. We generate revenue through the standard SaaS contract, software as a service. And these are typically, as I said, 3 to 5 years, and they pay on an annual basis, government. And then they typically will add on. So we charge per user seat. If they have 100 users using the system, we charge them for the 100 users, and then any additional add-ons they may want to add to the system.
Great.
So Our three main product lines are mobile, cloud, and data. Cloud being an enterprise solution that's fully browser-based, and it is highly configurable, meaning that it's self-serve, so all of our clients don't have to go to us and request time of a programmer or a developer to develop out this feature. They can go in with 2 clicks of a button, upload their data, set this feature active, and go. And they can do all of their business workflow through one single utility, so they don't have to actually spend a lot of time developing out a plan and a cost estimation. We can provide it out of the box.
Okay.
So the data play is interesting, and this is something that we've just recently released and are doing some early phase prototyping with. Is the data analytics side of things is really forthcoming. The data that we collect on restaurants primarily is really not seen across a broad spectrum. And so what the health departments want, our clients, is an ability to enrich that data and view things more importantly, more detailed than just, okay, how many inspections did I perform last month? Okay. They want to see things, okay, do we have infestations in this part of the county? Where are our primary drivers of foodborne illness in this section of our town? So our data product is forthcoming, and it provides a lot of rich add-ons to the traditional SaaS software data collection that we already provide. And as I mentioned, Touch, our mobile application, is really the only iPad and Android and Windows tablet-based software out there that's fully connected for both online and offline use, meaning that they can go out in the field and not worry about having an internet connection.
Okay. So it's like Evernote a little bit. So I can, if I'm online, it will be directly synced with the cloud. And if I'm offline, let's say in a plane, I can still do my notes in Evernote. And as soon as I got a Wi-Fi connection, then it will be synced. Is that kind of the same system?
Precisely. That's a really great comparison. Yes.
Okay,
and so for
cool.
our government inspectors, they're out in rural areas a lot of times. So they're being like in a basement. They're not going to get, even if they have a cell connection, they're not going to get internet. So yes, it works just like that. If they don't have internet, they're on a plane, whatever, they can still use the system. And as soon as that internet becomes available, back on, everything syncs up to the cloud.
Okay,
so
cool.
yes, that is correct. So, our government clients inspect over 200,000 food establishments. So they use our system to regulate a lot of businesses. And through that, what we've learned is that an astonishing number of establishments fail their food inspections. Nearly 15% fail a regular food inspection. And this means that when the government walks in, they survey the restaurant, they go through the kitchen and they look at the employees and survey a bunch of items. They, at the end of the day, have to shut down the restaurant because there's so many violations that could produce foodborne illness for the consumer. So they have to shut them down. Okay. And what is happening is we are launching a pilot program in the state of Virginia whereby, okay, so the restaurants, okay, great, I failed, I'm shut down, I cannot make any money, what's next? So what the health department's doing is they're going to say you need to take proactive steps. It's not enough to say, okay, you had raw meat sitting out everywhere, clean it up, throw it away, and you can reopen. It's not that easy. What they really need to do is be proactive in the future. The only way to truly be proactive and take measurable steps to bettering yourself is to utilize software. So what the government will do then is say, you need to contact HealthSpace and inquire about their self-auditing features and their self-auditing software. So essentially what this does is we get the government to be our direct sales agent, so to speak, and offer our solutions to the restaurants and the private industry that they inspect for the purpose of self-auditing and self-regulating, because the government doesn't want to be the end-all be-all. They don't want to show up on site, shut you down, and be the adversary in the situation. They want to help. Okay. They want to ensure that the public is safe, and ensuring that can be done through software by allowing restaurants to be proactive in what they measure, what they check, what they regulate themselves so before the government gets there, they're already ahead of the curve. So this is a very neat new section of our innovation, and that's really what has brought us into the blockchain. So you mentioned that there's a lot of companies out there. Just throw the word blockchain out there for kind of pomp and circumstance. It gets a lot of attention, but why blockchain and why now? Well, for HealthSpace, it's been in the works for well over a year. We have two relationships with two kind of hallmark development groups and blockchain companies out there, and I'll touch on those in a minute. But we've been working through a strategy for over a year now. What we saw is that, and with the advent of blockchain and its kind of rise to prominence, that there was a true need for it inside of the sectors that we play in, because there's this information that the government collects and it kind of stays siloed, right? So they go in, they inspect a restaurant, they might leave a paper copy or email a copy to the manager of that inspection result. But if there's multiple layers of management, meaning like a large chain, that report, that inspection report, and that data doesn't make it outside of that restaurant, that one location. It sits on the ground and it never makes it out to see the light of day. So what we see is that there's a more need for data transparency, more need for data sharing. Further, when it comes to these restaurants that are failing and struggling to keep up with food safety regulations, there's a need for self-inspection. But that data, which, by the way, a lot of restaurants already audit themselves. It's kind of important to note, I'll take a step back, is that when it comes to large restaurant chains like a McDonald's, Taco Bell, etc., these guys usually already utilize third-party auditors, meaning they hire a company like Ecolab to come in and say, hey, can you send in an inspector that doesn't work for the government and just audit our restaurant, tell us what we're going to expect when the government walks in the door. Okay, it's like a pre-audit, it's a faux audit.
Okay, yeah.
And so what they'll do is they'll take those results and then they'll, try to take proactive measures against it. But the problem is the government never sees that data. And what is now becoming an actual mantra within government, especially in North America, is that people are seeing that the governments are wanting these data to be shared with them. So if McDonald's is hiring a third-party auditor to walk into their store, inspect it, this is not a government inspection, right? So this hasn't been stamped by the government, but the government still wants access to that data. So in comes the blockchain. So you have the ability with the blockchain and a distributed ledger system to cohesively, transparently, and securely share information across multiple parties who don't have ownership. Now, this is important to note. So if you have the restaurant collecting their own data against their own establishments, they want to share this information with the government. There's no one pipe, there's no one network protocol that they can do that. The blockchain makes the most sense for this. And here's the reason why, is because it makes the data immutable. It makes it unchangeable. When you put the data into the blockchain, if they share an inspection report and say, hi, Mr. Government Agency, here's the inspection I performed against myself last week, that data will never change. And that's why the blockchain solution makes the most sense. Further, once it goes into that system, HealthSpace technically shouldn't be the pilot or the arbitrator in that situation. It should be a self-regulating mechanism, so that when the government then wants to share information back with that establishment, they're able to do so transparently and easily. So kind of getting a little off trail for some of this stuff. I'm going to go to the next slide. This is essentially what you're looking at with data collection nowadays. And let me know if you don't see that slide, Michael. So this slide kind of shows you data flows from application and sector to sector. So you see that at the end of the day, this data, this little pie down there, inevitably it flows out to kind of siloed data systems. Nobody has single access to one location to stop in and say, I want all the information on this restaurant. That doesn't really exist. Further, if it's a multinational chain, you can't get access. It's even harder to get access, because if they have multiple locations across state lines, across international lines, then that data is even more siloed into different databases. So in comes the VIAMarketplace, and this is our blockchain solution. So we've labeled it a VIAMarketplace for the sole purpose that it will become the only place where government can exchange data with private sector, and private sector can exchange data for the purpose of food safety. Now, food safety is where we're starting, and I've been kind of touching on that a lot. But HealthSpace regulates its software is used to regulate a lot of different industries: cannabis, pools, hotels. The point is that we're starting with food safety, but long term, what we'll do is we will take this and retrofit it to fit other verticals. Cannabis probably be in the next space that we will go after heavily. But if you look at this chart, essentially what you see here is it better explains visually where the data lies. You have government that inflows an inspection that's performed against, say, a McDonald's or a Walmart. And then you have up top there that the private industry is also doing their own private audits, and they can share it back on the same chain, the same line of data, if you will, their own private audit. So everybody has access to the same data at the same time without any kind of, competition.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're building out the toolkits to allow everybody to share data. We realize that we're never going to get 100% market saturation. So in order to create a blockchain solution that is meant for the future and that can really see us through for the next decade and more, you're going to have to understand that it's going to be a bit open source. So what we're going to do is open up our blockchain solution via toolkits to allow even competitors, third-party companies to share information across one singular ledger, one singular track of data. And this really expands the offerings. What this will do for HealthSpace on an investor front and in the revenue front will really allow us to expand our offerings to larger government parties that we would not get exposure to today. And essentially, selling our cloud offerings right now to each individual health department, it's a one-off scenario. We have to go to each individual health department, convince them, sell them, etc. Being the first to create a blockchain marketplace that is the only one out there that we know of that does data transparency and communication between government and private industry will really kind of cement us to be the industry leader, and we will be able to sell to larger government industries. It's about exposure. When people hear about the blockchain solution that connected government and private industry, the VIAMarketplace, it'll be synonymous with HealthSpace. So we'll be able to then utilize that expertise and go sell the same solutions to larger government verticals, such as the building industry or the permits that go with building.
Okay.
There's a lot more lucrative. So that's how it kind of builds us into the future. Now, to touch on what I kind of mentioned earlier is our two partnerships. Our two partnerships are kind of key to this whole thing, and here's why. Because blockchain technology is not light, it's not easy, and it comes with its own complications. What HealthSpace understands is data management, it understands cloud computing and all of that stuff. And we've brought in partners to kind of bolster our abilities to develop faster and with more intelligence behind the blockchain. SimbaChain is a blockchain company that got started by working with the U.S. military. They built a secure communication channel between ground troops overseas in Iraq and the Pentagon, and they used that they built it atop the blockchain. They also bring with them a relationship with the University of Notre Dame, and a lot of their department heads in math and science are helping us craft out our alpha phase prototype, and they also helped us develop out the white paper. VanBex is a venture studio that's based out of Vancouver. They incubate early stage blockchain companies as well as do investment and some development. And so they're helping guide from a strategic basis our technology and get it off the ground in the early stages.
And they did put $1 million of their own money into HealthSpace, right?
That is correct. So when when we got this relationship going late last year, they saw what we were doing. They saw the unique opportunity when it comes to government and blockchain private industry, and they immediately basically invested $1 million, knowing that the upside is substantial on this venture.
Okay, great. Let me ask you maybe a kind of different question. So whenever I think about blockchain, I also think about coins or tokens. So is this kind of necessary? So will the VIAMarketplace have their own token or coin, or don't you need that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm going to switch over here, Michael, to the white paper. We touch on this in the white paper. We go through what we call a token model. And yeah, so what this essentially does, it outlays the ability for a token to be used across the system. And this could be used for remuneration for people who share data. So to contribute data would be free, but if you want access to that data, there's an expenditure with it, right? There's server resources, there's time. So there's a value to that data. And so there is the ability to exchange a token in exchange for that. But what the VIAMarketplace is right now and will be is not a direct pay for play, meaning we will build out the network so that we can build relationships with larger industry players and utilize that sort of as a Trojan horse, if you will, to sell our cloud solutions on a larger basis. Because once we develop out this blockchain solution will be ones that can sell consulting services on top of it. We can sell additional tooling, and then there also is the token model that is available should we enact that option.
Okay. Okay.
So back on the slide, this is our charted out our milestone. With our white paper, we've bumped some of these dates out a bit, but roughly this is in line with what we envision that is actually accomplishable. So by late 2018, we hope to have some of this in the hands of the larger community, developing out widgets and apps on top of our blockchain protocol. Further, what we're doing right now is we are going to be releasing our alpha phase prototype in the next couple of weeks, and then onboarding the first government clients to actually start contributing data. Now, this is quite a big deal. For those who don't work in government industry, I work in it all the time, so I sometimes take it for granted. But when it comes to government, everybody knows that they keep their data centralized. They don't like their data to leave the borders of their whatever municipality or country. The distributed nature of the blockchain itself and having government agencies actually willingly participate is quite a feat. And we've already have two, or actually several, early participants that have volunteered that as soon as the alpha phase prototype is ready, they will be gladly start contributing data to the network and having their data live on a distributed ledger system. This means that obviously the nature of distributed, the word is self-explanatory, but this means that computers can host data all over the country, all over North America, all over the world, and being the first to do so really does cement us to be the industry leader in this.
Okay.
So HealthSpace, just real briefly, obviously, the market size that we play in is very, very large, several $billion at the very least. And once we introduce the blockchain technology, we honestly believe that we can take a much more substantial bite out of this marketplace. And honestly, the addressable market size grows because as we get into blockchain, you start talking about cannabis, you start talking about new opportunities to actually be the first player to introduce blockchain into inspections in cannabis. The list kind of goes on and on and on. So while our market size is huge already at 3 billion estimated, we believe that this will actually grow. Our addressable market size will grow as we deliver more blockchain solutions.
Okay. You know what really attracts me to HealthSpace is that you are in various of the hot sectors. Yeah, you'll have, first of all, healthcare in general or public safety is a big market. Yeah, and it's something which the world needs. Second, you have blockchain now with a real practical model and a reason why you need to use it, right? And then you have big data, as you said, which is also one of the big investment topics. And then you also have cannabis, right?
Yes.
So it's like you have the best of everything, kind of. It's all in a company that's, I don't know what the market cap is around is right now, but it's just a couple of $1 million, right?
Yes, our recurring revenue is 2 million, just over 2 million USD a year, and that's our recurring revenue. Total money on a contract we have, just over $10 million USD for the life of all of our contracts. So yes, we're definitely in the early stages of a lot of potentially really rapid and large growth.
Yep, I agree.
Yes. So I touch on this a little bit in this slide. It just shows visually this revenue number is a little bit outdated. So we're just over 2 million now, and this we do expect to grow substantially in 2018 and going into 2019. One of the things that government really thrives on is word of mouth, and that's one of the reasons why I keep harping on the fact that blockchain will be this thing that leads us into the future. Because once word really spreads that we are the first to deliver the VIAMarketplace, the blockchain that connects government and industry, being the first to introduce such a mechanism really will get the word out, and it just makes that much more exposure to more industries and more government sales easier. So, let's skip over this, Michael. Some of this stuff is just kind of boilerplate, and as you said, it's on the website. So, Michael, one of the things I want to touch on is, with the blockchain solution that we are developing out, one of the things it addresses is obviously data sharing, but what does data sharing about? It's really when it comes to food safety and cannabis health, which is another area that we will be focusing on, is the area where personal behavioral sciences that go into actually people prepping food, storing cannabis, storing different items that relate to direct consumption with a consumer. That is really what most foodborne illness is introduced through. So you have other competitors out there, well, not competitors, but other software providers that are working on blockchain solutions when it comes to like supply chain and traceability. But what no one is introducing and why the VIAMarketplace is so unique is that it really addresses what is on the ground in a restaurant. It's really great and laudable that someone could be able to do something in the supply chain and say like, this piece of fruit and this produce came from these 4 farms and it was on this truck, etc., and tracing it all the way down to the store. But once it gets to the store, you still have the potential to contaminate it, and that's what the VIAMarketplace proposes to do, is really trace all of that data. At once a product arrives at the store, there's still a potential for the people on site to contaminate it, etc. So that's why then self-inspections are needed, and that's what the VIAMarketplace is about. It's about allowing the regulation or the restaurants, the establishments, the cannabis dispensaries to regulate themselves, to share this data back with government in a trustworthy way, and that's why the VIAMarketplace really is the most unique solution when it comes to blockchain, I believe, out there, and is one of the most revolutionary when it comes to really improving the health and safety of establishments and consumers at large.
Okay.
So, Michael, did you have any other questions for me? I could go through the white paper, but it's 20 plus pages, and
No, we don't need to do that. So now I think, and especially the public, and also the governments, they get more notorious, I think, about public safety. And as you saw, there's this one Mexican restaurant chain in the United States. I can't come up with a name, Chipotle.
Chipotle.
Yeah, right. So they had problems, where they kind of damaged some of their consumers. And the second thing, which I really think is good, is that you have clients, like you have an active government client base, right? So as you pointed out, the government might be your sales team, or at least part of your sales team, right? Which it can't get any better. Like if you're a restaurant and your supervising government entity tells you need to go to HealthSpace, what are you going to do, right? It's the same like when my tax authorities tell me to pay taxes. I'm just going to do that. So it's a perfect sales approach. And the other thing which I wanted to point out from my end, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it takes the government institutions most of the time a long time to decide who to go with or what to do. But if they do, they're kind of staying forever. Because they are like big tankers. They don't move. They're not like fast speedboats. This, and as you said, all of your clients so far are kind of renewing their contracts. All of them are satisfied. There's only, to me, and I can say that there's only upside potential from the revenues. And as you said, right now you have like the 2 million and the 10 million, but this is just from like a tiny number of clients, right? So you can grow to like 10 or 100 or even 1,000 times your client base, right? And as you said, as you pointed out, there was like, I think it's like 16 million shares out. 160 million shares out. So the stock price right now is below 10 cents. So that gives you like a $16 million market cap, which is nothing to me, right? So again, what I would, and I will hand over for some final words to you, but my 2 cents are for my subscribers, for my audience, is like, now that the stock came back below the 10-cent level from the recent high of, I think, like north of 20 cents, with all these fundamentally good moves, with all these big markets that HealthSpace can address, to me, it's a non-brainer. You should definitely take a look at the website. As Silas pointed out, the presentation is on the website. There's a link to the white paper if you're a techie and understand it. I tried to read it. I only got like 10% of the whole thing. But to me, it's really, and this is, thank you very much, Silas. You showed me that in real life, there are real life applications that make sense for blockchain technology, which in general, I'm a big believer in, just not in all these hypes and fancy ICOs and token that are floating around and gold companies coming out with their own token. And to me, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, but in general, mid to long term, I'm a big fan of blockchain. And so again, take a look at HealthSpace. Yeah, the valuation is like almost unbelievably low to me. Yeah, again, I'm biased, of course. Yeah, I'm an investor in the company, and I have a business relationship with the company's management. But so I'm biased. But still, do your own due diligence. And Silas, thank you very much. The final words are yours.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I would just like to say that blockchain technology is really what we would say is our next tech stack. So we've done cloud, we've done mobile. Blockchain is really what will cement us into the future to be an industry leader and take a sizable bite out of that 3 billion plus size industry. And we're already seeing significant growth in our cloud solutions. So our native growth is going to grow. Our mobile growth is going to continue to grow. So our revenues are just beginning, I would say. And now with blockchain solutions at play, the future is very bright in space.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Again, the website of the company is healthspace.com. It's trading on the Canadian markets as HS, and on the German markets, the symbol is 38H, and the German WKN number is A2ABE4. So hopefully in a couple of months, we can touch base again, and you can bring to us some of the developments of the company. For now, thank you very much, Silas.